Hey everybody, welcome back. Gabriella Huffman here to help you study for your North Carolina real estate exam. This is the last video for chapter 7. So this is video 5 of 5. I've got sprinkled in here a little bit of appendix A as well. So we are going to talk about the different types of agents, full brokers, provisional brokers, BICs, how many BICs they can have, firm licensing, qualifying brokers, all that fun jazz in this video. So let's start with some basic stuff. There are categories and there are statuses. So these are the different categories. So remember, in North Carolina, we only have one license, which is a broker license. So that broker license has several different categories or levels to it. You have your provisional broker, which is your entry level. So once you pass your real estate exam, you will become a provisional broker on inactive status. So we'll talk about active and inactive here in a second. But once you pass your test, you are a provisional broker on inactive status. Once you start taking your post-licensing courses and complete all 90 hours, you'll become a full broker. Once you meet a certain amount of experience, you can become a BIC or BIC eligible. And for any out-of-state commercial brokers, North Carolina does have a limited license available, which is a non-resident commercial broker license. Now we've got different statuses. So you've got current. This is where a lot of people mess up. Current means you've paid your currency. You've paid that $45 every June 30th with a real estate commission. So paying your license doesn't activate. Paying your license keeps you current, because brokers, provisional brokers, full brokers can be inactive indefinitely. They can be inactive forever as long as they pay their renewal fee. So I can be current and inactive at the same time. So paying your fee doesn't activate. Paying your fee keeps you current. It keeps that license. It keeps you from coming back to pre-licensing. Expired means you did not pay your fee. You completely threw away your license. We'll talk about in another video how to get your license back should that happen in Appendix A. But for right now, we're going to keep it simple. So current and expired have to do with, did you pay your $45 renewal fee by June 30th, or did you not pay it? Inactive, remember, you can be inactive indefinitely as long as you pay that $45 renewal fee. So inactive can be a choice. You chose to be inactive. Inactive are initial provisional brokers once they get their license. Inactive also means, or can be, you forgot to take your continuing ed. So there's 8 hours of CE due by June 10th. So if you go inactive, you still have a license, but it's turned off. All right. So you can keep this license turned off by renewing, keeping current every year. So do remember that a newly licensed broker does not have to take their first 8 hours until the second renewal period. Active, well, there's a couple ways to go active. If you're a provisional broker, you can activate by assigning with a BIC or taking your 8 hours of CE by June 10th every year. So active means your license is turned on and you can actively broker, you can actively receive compensation. So full broker, make sure you know, is also called non-provisional broker. You're not provisional anymore. Once you achieve this full broker status, you have a couple of options. So let's review again. To get to full broker status, you need to take 90 hours of post-licensing. There are 3 courses, post 301, 302, 303, that you can take in any order. And there's no limitation on how many class hours you can have in a 7-day period. That has since been removed. So once you achieve all 90 hours within 18 months of getting your license, you now become a full broker. So as a full broker, here are your options. You can continue working with your real estate firm who you've already established yourself with, or you can go off on your own and become a sole proprietor. So if you want to continue working with a firm, that's fine. So most firms have BICs. So if you are, and you can see the three things here, advertising, holding trust accounts, hiring licensees, that's what BICs, or what requires you to have your BIC status. So most all firms have a BIC. So if you continue with a firm, you're technically working under that BIC's license, so you can continue to list and solicit business. If you decide as a full broker to become a sole proprietor, you've got to be careful. If you go off on your own as a sole proprietor and you're not a BIC or eligible to be a BIC, or you don't have a BIC working with you, you're limited to just two things that you can do: receiving referrals and working as a buyer's agent. So remember, you have up to 18 months to finish all 90 hours of post licensing. So let's say we do that. We knock out all three classes within 18 months. Am I eligible for BIC? The answer is no. I need to have at least 2 years of experience, right? So can I still go work on my own as a sole proprietor? The answer is yes. You're just limited to receiving referrals and working as a buyer's agent. So reviewing the BIC eligible, 2 years of full-time experience or 4 years of part-time equivalent. To get your BIC, it's not automatic. You need to apply, and you're going to take a 12-hour BIC class. This is going to teach you all the ins and outs of managing people and firms and just being a BIC in general. So in order to even get to here, you need to have that experience. You need to be on a full broker status. So you don't automatically become BIC once you hit your 2 years. You apply for it if you want to. You don't have to become a BIC or BIC eligible at any time. So there's BIC eligible and BIC. So I see most of my students don't really understand the difference, and that's understandable. So BIC eligible, I like to say, you have this badge on your lapel. I think about, Boy Scouts have all those badges. You have this BIC eligible badge on your lapel, but it's turned off. So you've achieved, satisfy the requirements to get it, but you're not using it at this time. You passed the class, you got your experience, great. You just have that eligible status, but it's turned off right now. And so you can turn it on whenever you need it. If you're going to BIC other people, BIC a firm, advertise yourself, that sort of thing. Broker in charge, that status is turned on. That is the contact person for all of the agents for the firm. That's who the commission wants to know who's in charge here. So you can have your BIC eligible status forever and never turn it on if you don't want to. But having that means you went and satisfied the class and the experience. So to maintain, whether you're BIC eligible or BIC, to maintain that badge on your lapel, you have to renew every year, June 30th, $45. And notice you're taking the BIC up and a 4-hour elective. So even if you're eligible, you have the status, but it's turned off, you still got to take the broker in charge update. So how many BICs can a full broker have? How many BICs can a provisional broker have? Let's start with the full broker. A full broker can work for 2 different firms or more at 2 different locations. That's key here, at the same time, but with both BIC's consent. And those 2 different locations can offer the same real estate services. So if I want to, with both BIC's consent, sell residential real estate in Wilmington and sell residential real estate in Raleigh, notice I would be affiliated to 2 different firms at 2 different locations at the same time, and they're both offering the same services. That is fine. So how many BICs can a provisional broker have? Well, provisional broker cannot work for 2 different firms at 2 different locations at the same time. Notice the difference here, what a full broker can do versus what a provisional broker cannot do. Notice at 2 different locations. However, we did have a rule change July 1 of 2020 that a provisional broker can work for 2 different BICs of 2 different firms at the same time, as long as both firms share the same address. Let's say it's 123 Main Street. So the common example, or the reason why, is most provisional brokers like to join teams that are at real estate firms. And we'll get into teams when you get your license and post licensing. But just to give you a little insight, some teams like to create them as entities, therefore having a BIC. So let's say you are on Best Brokers team who has BIC Sam, and Best Brokers team works under ABC Realty, whose BIC is Bob. Well, if you're a provisional broker working on Best Brokers team, you've got Sam as your BIC, and Best Brokers team is also under ABC Realty, and you've got Bob as your BIC. So you've got two BICs, but both share the same address. So let's define what a firm is. It's an entity. Okay, or to be more clear, a corporation, LLC, or a partnership. So if you've gone and registered yourself for the Secretary of State as a corp, LLC, a partnership, you are an entity, or what the Real Estate Commission likes to call a firm. All firms require a firm license. Notice that also has to be renewed every June 30th, $45, okay? All firms also have qualifying brokers. The qualifying broker, just to keep it simple, is who created the entity. So if I go and register myself as Star Real Estate Agent LLC, I need to have a firm license because I created something other than myself. And I'm going to put myself down as the qualifying broker, the person who created the entity. Because you have to remember, the commission is there for the consumer. So whenever someone calls Star Realty LLC, they don't know who they're calling. It's just a name. They want to know the person behind the name. The person behind that name is going to be that qualifying broker. So keep in mind that sole proprietors do not need a firm license. Sole proprietors are not corporations. They're not LLC. They're not partnerships. They haven't gone and added more paperwork or necessary steps to create something other than themselves. So if I were just going to work as Gabriella Huffman broker, that's sole proprietor. I don't need a firm license. So when someone calls me, they know who they're going to talk to. Here's the tricky part. Not all firms require a BIC. So I want to bring your attention back to the left-hand side. All firms do require a firm license that's renewed every year and a qualifying broker. But not all firms require a BIC. Well, there's some reasons why. Sometimes firms are created just for compensation purposes only. All right. So I work for a real estate firm. So every time I sell a house, my BIC cuts me a check. Well, my tax accountant said, Gabriella, instead of having your BIC cut you a check as an individual, why don't we have your BIC cut your business entity a check? So you'll be taxed differently as an entity versus an individual, and you've got some liability protection. So I created an S Corp for compensation purposes only. Nobody knows about it but my BIC, because the whole purpose of that creation is just to receive my commission checks. I don't advertise through my S Corp. I don't hire licensees through my S Corp. I don't hold trust accounts through my S Corp. Remember, those three things, if I do any of those, requires a BIC, but I don't do that through my S Corp. It only receives compensation. I do all the advertising through the real estate firm that employs me. So not all firms require a BIC. That is the end of chapter 7.